Good morning and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folarin. And my guest this morning is Engineer Bala Zaka. He's an energy expert. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, and good morning, listeners and viewers.
Yes, and I'm happy that you can be smiling against the backdrop of a possible, 151.87 naira recommendation. Well, not so much recommendation as a statement that at the very, very base level, from 145 naira per litre, that look, when you look at the component parts of all of this, it really doesn't add up at 145 per litre. It adds up at 151.87, almost 152 naira per litre. Well, cutting to the quick, Bala, I just wanted to ask you, what do you think of that? A bunch of people who should know, past GMDs of NNPC and with the present MD, and with the Minister of State, who effectively is the Minister for Petroleum, they all got together, had this brainstorming session, and came up with this news, to which Nigerians have said, not try more, not try more.
You know, you said I'm smiling, you know, as Fela said,
yes.
Suffering and smiling, but it's good to continue to be optimistic. But I can tell you, like you rightly say, when you're talking about GMDs of a body like NNPC, you know, you're talking is just as good as you saying people who have reached the zenith of their profession. They were there before, they are there today, and they are likely to be there for tomorrow. Because when you x-ray them also, you will see from people like the Lolomaris, you know, you have the Lawrence Amus, Jackson Obasike, you know, name them, all of them, Funsho Kupolokun, you know,
energy experts,
they've all reached there. So it's just like when you say, in fact, this is the way I will look at it. First of all, before we even go into the details of this analysis, it's just like when you say past presidents and heads of states in Nigeria came together, had a meeting, and wanted to make statements about Nigeria. It's the same thing like saying past chief of defense staff of Nigeria came together, you know, and wanted to make a statement about the Nigerian military. Or when you say past controllers of immigration coming together and wanting to make a statement about immigration as far as Nigeria is concerned, or past inspectors general of police coming together and wanting to make a statement about Nigerian policing, or finally maybe past controllers of customs coming together. You're talking about, if you look at it, you're just talking about the generals, the presidents. So they were there before, they are there, they are still with us, and are likely to be with us tomorrow.
And we can assume from all of that they know the parameters they're dealing with.
So you see, when such people talk, and you're not talking about just one head of state, or one GMD, or one controller, or one chief of defense staff, you're talking about former, all congregating as a team, making such statements.
And coming up with a unanimous statement.
Exactly. So when such groups, you know, of leaders at such levels, regardless of the different sectors you're talking about, come to make statements like that, you know, you don't just, people like me don't just start making comments. What I do is rather study what they have said, study their recommendations, because they are everything. And it's not just one person. If it's one person, you would just say probably he got upset, his mind is skewed, you know, probably he slept on the wrong side of the bed, or his body, and it's no. But it's as a group, you know, for such people, you know, or groups, what I do is I study what they have said.
The minute detail of what has been said.
Regardless of whether it is positive to me as an individual, or if my understanding is that this thing is probably positive or even negative for my country as Nigeria, what I do is first of all to study.
Okay.
So after the studying, then I will now come and want to come up with my own understanding of what they meant and where they are directing us or suggesting we should move.
Okay. Now, with that caveat, you know, I haven't put that caveat. The one thing that they seem to be in a, well, first of all, the statement was unanimous. And I think it's important that it be known. It's a bit like when the Supreme Court, you know, sits and how many judges are there? 5 or 7, whatever. Exactly. And you say it was unanimous. There was no dissenting judge. You know, it's a bit like that. Now, they seem to be unanimous on the point that we have to refocus the entire sector, oil sector, re-strategize. Otherwise, it is possible that it could collapse. Now, this is not cheering news at all. And a lot of Nigerians would probably have been caught by surprise. Say, hang on, I thought it was all of this refocusing, re-strategizing that brought us to 145 naira per liter. And now you're talking about it's likely to collapse if we stay where we are now.
And that was why I said you need to study the minute details and now start.
But when you studied it, what did you find?
Find out, to be honest, I became worried for my country as Nigeria. And I just felt, well, as parents, as people who have reached that level, after studying, I discovered that they are right to a reasonable extent.
They were concerned about security. They were concerned about security.
Talk about so many things.
Yes, so many things. Exploration.
So they were right to a great extent. It's only on one point that they are also right, but I'm not comfortable with. And that is trying to up the price of PMS per liter, you know, from 145. But personally, I have always known that, or I have always felt that that will be that was, is, and may continue to be the biggest mistake we will make in Nigeria if we continue to up the price of distillates or refined petroleum products.
Is it right to, in a simplistic sense, look at the situation we have on our hands as what the GMDs appear to be saying, albeit my interpretation being on the simplistic side, that this is not a problem that you can throw more money at and hope it'll go away. It's not throw enough money at it. You have to re-strategize and refocus, re-engineer the whole thing.
And now let's start hitting them one after the other.
But why didn't anybody tell us this before we went through the whole hassle and hullabaloo of going to 145?
No, but that was where, you know, some of us, when we had the opportunity of being before you, we said, as at that time, Nigerians, a lot of Nigerians didn't know the difference between deregulation, liberalization, commercialization, and privatization.
So which one did we do? Which one did we do?
We said it.
Which one did we do to 145?
I will explain it. Just like as I'm talking to you now, I can tell you many people don't know the difference between currency devaluation, currency depreciation, and currency redenomination. Some of us were saying these things. You know, to me, to the best of my knowledge, what we did was we attempted to deregulate that sector. And I have always said it.
And at that time, government had said, sorry for interrupting you, the government had said that, look, let it be deregulated. We will have a supervisory control, and that was the cap. Now they're complaining about that cap.
No. Even then at a point, you know, there was this another camp was saying it wasn't deregulated. It was liberalized. You know, but to the best of my knowledge, it was deregulated. Look, deregulation is very, very dangerous for a fragile economy. Deregulation is very dangerous for an emerging economy. It's just like when you say, because you sign international treaties and whatever, then you will have a weak currency, and you are a 100% import dependent country. You are not producing. And you will continue to say you will devalue your currency. You will kill yourself. You can only devalue your currency make it lower so that when people come in, they will see goods and services that will attract them. But as long as you don't have any goods and services, if you devalue your currency, you will suffer. So it's the same thing with the fragility, and the benign nature of the Nigerian economy today. Your transportation and the rest. It is within that minimum wage that you're supposed to pay for your electricity bills.
And by the way, $100 today is looking at, we're looking at 40,000 naira odd.
But that's why I said the minimum wage is less than $100.
Yes.
I don't even want to say it's less than $50.
Yes.
You understand? So that tells you your economy is weak. And you're talking about a situation where you have an international commodity like the crude oil, whether you take it or not. The crude oil is an international commodity. The price of the crude oil is being determined by the interplay of what we call externalities that are beyond the control of Nigeria. In fact, even beyond the control of a cartel called OPEC. The only thing is OPEC will be highly influential, but not only within the grip of only OPEC. So when you have an international commodity like that, you need to understand or accept that there are so many things you cannot control. You will only be able to take care of what has to do with your internalities. And that is things like internal domestication.
Yes. And talking about the internalities there, what the heck happened to our refineries? Would that not make a whopping difference?
We will get there. So when these GMDs were talking, first of all, they said, based on the exchange rate, as at the time we were operating at, it was jacked from probably 86 to 145. The exchange rate, or what was supposed to be available in the market then, was like probably between 250 naira to 285 naira per dollar. As we speak today, it is probably above 400 naira to a dollar. So, and because to me, as far as I'm concerned, the sector has been deregulated, then that simply means dealers or importers go and get your dollars. Once you get your dollars, buy these distillates or refined products, bring them and supply. So there is no way, when it was taken to 145, the naira then was probably like 250, 285 naira per dollar.
And we thought today, it was bad then.
Exactly. So today the naira is probably 400 and something. That importer, that business person must at least recover the cost of capital and his margins.
It's not the only worry they have. I also, I read that the GMDs are concerned that, is it NIPIP or something like that, that there's a technical component.
No, we will talk about that.
They are not happy at all that the PIB, as it is being worked upon, would want to take it out of the control of the NNPC.
In fact, let me now start hitting them one after the other.
And they say you can't do that. That if you do that, then you have an ineffective NNPC.
Exactly. In fact, before going to that place, I wanted to also say something about these distillates.
Sure.
Yori, a lot of people will not believe it. These refined products we talk about, tampering with it will throw everything about our macroeconomic indices into a disarray. You understand? Because take it, just look at it. All of a sudden, the barber will discover that he cannot afford to have more than one barber in the shop because of the cost of petrol or diesel. The person in probably the hospital will just discover that because there is no electricity, he cannot run, that medical director cannot run the hospital 24 hours with electricity, with diesel and petrol. So, and how will you feel as a patient going and there is no electricity? Somebody who operates in the campus will discover that when you go to the lab or the lecture classrooms, there is no light. And the only thing you will rely on is what? Either petrol or diesel to power yourself. You also discover that all the manufacturers all of a sudden discover that they need to run on generators for 24 hours, either using diesel or petrol. At the end of the day, the quality of what they will produce will be very, very low, affecting the patronage. All the commercial institutions like the banks will discover that for an ATM to be effective, Because if the ATM of your bank is not working, people will even run away from your bank. So for just your ATM to be effective, that ATM machine has to run 24 hours non-stop. And you power it using a generator. The generator is being driven using petrol or diesel. At a point, you will just discover the cost of diesel or petrol will be so high.
You're making it sound like if we're not careful, the country could grind to a halt.
No, it's not going to grind to a halt. But let me just summarize the sectors now. You know, I was just bringing it down to our to my mother's level.
Yes, and you
village.
didn't even.
But you see, there are three sectors really. You have strategic domestic sector, where you have the cooking gas, other things at home. Then you have strategic commercial sector, where you have like places like this, the banks and the rest. Then you have strategic industrial sector, where you have now the manufacturing, you know, and the rest, the processing industries. All these sectors require power as I speak to you. And they are all dependent on what? On generators. And these generators are driven either using petrol or diesel.
Even as the power supply situation appears to be improving,
you know, and
would you agree with that?
Well, reasonably,
yes.
You understand. But all these key strategic sectors depend on generators.
Okay.
And all of them are competing for the same petrol or diesel. Meanwhile, originally, this same petrol or diesel now was supposed to be for just automobiles.
Yeah.
Cars are competing for the same thing that generators are competing. You know, Nigeria has been reduced to a country of ridicule and melancholy, to the point where even aircrafts in Nigeria go to another country that doesn't have probably up to 1/5 of our endowment in crude oil reserve to go and fuel.
It's sounding like a mess already.
No, it's not a mess.
It's sounding like a mess already.
That was why I told you that. That was why I said, you see, when you have people at such levels, you know, sitting down and analyzing and making statements, somebody like me will not just come and say, hey, why did you say it? No, I studied everything that they have said. So that is the gloomy part. But they came up with suggestions. And what are the suggestions? I am happy for the first time, great Nigerians like that said something that I have always opined, you know. And what have I always suggested? We must never make the mistake of saying we were going to sell out those our refineries. That would have been the biggest mistake. All the people telling you that sell it to us, we can manage it. Why can't you establish your own? It is only in Nigeria that people will tell you that no, power is bad. But if you want to do something, they will say sell it to us, sell the assets to us, those wasting assets. They will tell you communication is bad. But if you say, okay, what do we do? They will say, now, sell it to us. Railway is bad. But what do? Sell it to us. Refineries are bad. Refineries, but okay, let us throw away the refineries, let everybody, they will now say, okay, no, we can buy the refineries. Why can't you? If truly we have genuine private practitioners, why can't you start your own? From the scratch, as Nigerians would say, tear rubber. So that if you need support or assistance from government, come out in the open. The government will be willing to support you. So I'm happy they said, let us go to what they call OEMs, original equipment manufacturers. Let us rejuvenate the refineries. And I'm telling you, once you do that, that is what you will now bring about internal domestication and the growth of GDP. A lot of also people don't even know what GDP is all about.
But on that point, because you addressed, I think what you addressed there was this whole matter of the question on the productive capacity of the refinery.
Yes, but they suggested many other things.
I know. But just that single suggestion, doesn't it sort of stand to reason? What has been standing, blocking this particular suggestion of go to the original equipment manufacturers and let them give us a bill for what is it going to take to bring this thing to a pristine quality? Yori,
between you and me, it's just like I can tell you till tomorrow, it remains a sad thing that nobody can come out in concrete terms and tell you the thorny issues that will make us not to pass the petroleum industry bill into law, almost approaching a decade. Why we have not started implementing the Nigerian gas master plan. It's just like somebody who will sit down and say, as great as Nigeria is, we've been talking about West African gas pipeline or gas project. Do you know the plan then? When some of us were in secondary school, the plan then was from Nigeria, you will power gas across the West African coast. Do you know, there was a time, and I learned that one was even conceived in the 70s, Trans-Saharan gas pipeline. You just imagine, it was Nigerians that thought about this.
And it was also Nigerians that didn't let it come into fruition.
Exactly, the same gas from Nigeria. You pass through Niger, pass through the Sahara Desert, through the Mediterranean Sea to Europe. Just imagine Nigerians reason like that, and all of a sudden, within Nigerians, and some of those who came up with these credible and creative ideas are still alive, and Nigeria is looking like this. Why? What is that thing that will make us not to call ourselves a country that has been reduced to a melancholy country?
Vested interests?
Well,
vested interests?
No,
because why, if you have an excellent plan, and we had the capability, I don't know if I should use the present tense, we were not able to do the needful.
I wouldn't want to deviate us, but on this one, let me answer it to the best of my knowledge. You know, because here we share, we are beamed to the entire world. We learn from viewers, and also they share from the little knowledge we have. To the best of my knowledge is we are not thinking in national interest. That's one. Then secondly, apart from not thinking in national interest, I think the kind of government we have been running, government after government, or democratic cycle after democratic cycle, we have been running democracy of exclusion, democracy of emasculation, and democracy of vengeance. And what I simply mean is this: regardless of how fantastic you will be, if you defeat me in an election, no matter how intelligent I am, you will not care about the technocrats that I have. You will consign them to the dustbin. But you forgot that, or you will forget that we are all Nigerians. If I started a project of a hospital, the first thing you will do, because probably we were in different political parties or you campaign so hard, the first thing you will do is to fire all the contractors that were in charge of that hospital. If it's a rail line or a school project, you will come and cancel everything. You cannot continue to do that and expect that Nigeria will grow. Meanwhile, you forgot that one day my son will marry your daughter. Or one day your son will go to the other part of the country to get married. So
that's one of the challenges we faced in
the country. Lack of national interest, you understand, and democracy of ethos. Total exclusion. Once people are on sea, they feel all the other parties are a bunch of non-entities. Now back on stream to what we were discussing.
Now we have it, and as you know, interest groups, labor, and everybody has started to warm up for what they think of as a rumble in the jungle, where let nobody try to even talk about going up in price. And yet we are hearing from people that should know that, sorry, there's nowhere else to go.
You know, that was why I said, let me come back on track.
I wonder if we shouldn't do a break so that I don't disturb you. I think we should go on a quick break.
No worries.
So that we don't disturb, because this is getting more and more interesting, and then we'll include calls when we come back.
No worries.
Stay with us, please. Welcome back. We're looking at the petroleum sector against the backdrop of the revelation, unanimous revelation by past and present GMDs that the 145 naira per litre fuel PMS price might just not be really indicative of the component parts as we have them now. In fact, there has been some suggestion that it's going to be in the region of almost 152 naira. They painted a gloomy picture. We have Engineer Balazaka with us. They painted a gloomy picture, but as you were saying,
they came up with likely suggestions to bring us out of the economic woods
as well.
You know, and when they were, apart from the refinery, because they look at the refinery as a profit-making entity or commercial entity of NNPC that should be rejuvenated rather than being thrown away. Then they look at another arm of that NNPC that has to do with revenue generation, and they call that one the Nigerian Petroleum Development Company, NPDC. That one is like any other international oil company. They are supposed to have their staff, they are supposed to explore, generate revenues, you know. Then they now came again and they said, when you want to manage the technical aspect, the exploration and production aspect of this body called NNPC, there is a subsidiary or a section of it called National Petroleum Investment Management Services. NAPIMS. You know, they said, don't remove it out of NNPC.
Exactly.
And I'm telling you, everything that has to do with technicalities and analysis is within the custody of NAPIMS. When you talk about the brains, it's when you go to NAPIMS that you discover everywhere you go in this world, if you talk about oil and gas, in any country, the experts you find in those countries, if you come to NAPIMS, you will see their Nigerian equivalents who are as intelligent as that.
And so this is a veritable asset,
yes,
that they feel would pauperize NNPC if you were to take it out.
Not only pauperize it, that knowledge basket
without knowledge
will be thrown away.
Okay, then one moment, please, because Chidi from KAFANCHAN has been holding on for a while. Good morning, Mr. Chidi.
Good morning, Uncle Yori. How is today?
Very well, sir. Thank you very much for calling.
Yes, sir. My very great regards to your host, your guest,
Balazaka.
Mr. Balazaka.
Thank you, sir.
I've been enjoying the way he has been analyzing concerning the petroleum issue. I want to ask a very simple question, sir, with due respect.
Yes, sir.
The impending price in petroleum resources, could it be traceable to the fall in the oil price in the international market? Could it be the reason why the price of pump price is likely to increase as has been initiated by the NNPC? That is
no, it's more related. You know, the problems are many, but it's more related to the falling values of the naira. You understand? Because before now, remember, that was why to me I said it wasn't liberalized. You know, the sector was actually deregulated. As at the time it went to 145, the naira then availability was at probably 250 to 285 naira to $1. But now the naira is probably like 400 and something naira to $1. I think it is more of that. And due to also our inability to do what? To internally domesticate. Because Kaduna refinery is not doing anything. Warri refinery is not doing. Port Harcourt refinery is not doing. If all those were to be happening here, if we were to be refining internally, the price will never get to that.
Yes.
But incidentally, I'm from KAFANCHAN.
So there you go.
So my
where
brother,
Chidi called from.
No, but that's interesting. You see, Chidi is an Igbo man. I hope one Wale will also call. You know, another Osagie will call. That's how Nigeria should be. You understand? And an Igbo man comfortable in KAFANCHAN, Kaduna, and you understand? So you see, that is it. You know, so when they suggested that, they talked about also frontier exploration. You understand? On that frontier exploration, they principally talked about Benue Trough and Chad Basin. But between you and I, we have about 7 potential basins in Nigeria. The first is Calabar Flank. Then you have the Benue Trough. Then you have the Chad Basin. Then you have the Anambra Basin. And you have the Sokoto Basin. You have even the Bida Basin. And the recent Dahomey Basin, where we made this discovery of crude oil in Lagos in a field specifically called Ajay Field. And the oil mining lease number is 113. So the reason why I think they went for that is they are looking at crude oil as a national asset, not a sectional asset. So if you have a national asset like crude oil like that, there is a need for you to know your potentials. But we know that the Niger Delta sedimentary basin is the most prolific today in Nigeria. But there is nothing wrong in national interest to know other potential sedimentary basins, know your endowment. We don't need to finish everything.
They also lamented, now that you go to speaking about that, they also lamented the degradation of the Niger Delta and the problem of insecurity. I know you're going to comment on that. Let me bring in Mr. Chidi calling in from ABIA. Good morning. Mr. OKOROAFOR, I beg your pardon. Mr. OKOROAFOR.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Yori and Mr. Waka. I was wicked, sir. We thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Now, you see, Mr. Yori and Mr. Waka, you see, Nigeria, an oil-producing country, shouldn't talk of increase in our wealth. Now, if you look at our country, Nigeria, let's look at Venezuela. Venezuela, they were selling oil very, very cheap. At the end of it, what is happening in Venezuela? They can't even buy common bread in Venezuela today, an oil-producing country like Nigeria. Now, what do we need in Nigeria so that we move forward, talk about some issue of increasing and not increasing? Now, in NNPC, some people have said it for over 40 years, 30 years. Why are they splitting? We have to do a restructure. There should be a change of government in that NNPC. Bring in people that are with modern technology in terms of oil exploration into that very place. You can't continue keeping people that, and every day they will feel all the excuses. By the time they say, students went from University of Science and Technology, Futo, with many students went direct chemical and petrochemical. What are they doing? Bring them. Now you ask yourself, Mr. Yori and our guests, students, all those students that the government has given the license to establish refinery, what have they done? Where are they? Now, you see, we go to the oil producing areas, we now look for all those boys that do all this illegal bunkering. Can't we employ them? All those machines they use in producing all those oil at illegal one, can't we put it in use? It will help us. You see, China. We talk about China. China is all these minor things we just destroy. Bring them into the system. Gather them one place. We call it maybe oil producing village. All those people that have been caught that they're producing oil illegally, let them produce oil, whether we will not stop importing oil. Thank you very much. Have a blessed day in Lagos.
Thank you, comrade. Well,
he is 100% correct. The only reason why we are in this kind of problem is because there is no internal domestication. And as long as we don't domesticate these things internally, we will continue to suffer.
Because we have to look for the foreign exchange to buy it with.
Apart from that, you see, there is no way with the above. First of all, let's say certain things that will be shocking and that will show that sometimes we can be planless in this country. It is not falling prices of crude oil that made us not to pass the petroleum industry bill into law. Like he was saying, if you don't pass the PIB into law, how do you expect people to come into an industry or sector like this that is capital intensive and invest without knowing the regulatory, legal and procedural regime that will guide what they will be doing with you? If you don't do that, nobody. You cannot say, come invest from outside, come invest from outside. Meanwhile, they don't know the conditions that will be subsisting. The Petroleum Act of 1969 is obsolete. 1969 to now, you are talking about 48 years. It's not going to be viable. It's just like when you talk about tax laws of 1960 something. Yeah. And even in 1969, around that time, we were only drilling on land and shallow waters. But today, we have gone into what we call slant drilling, horizontal drilling, and multilateral drilling. And we can now drill in what we call deep waters, where you can drill to as deep as you have 2 kilometers of water depth before you start drilling. Things have changed. The dynamism have changed. You must have these necessary regimes.
Taufik calling in from Oshogbo. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank you for calling in.
And good morning to Mr. Balazaka.
Good morning, sir.
I love your analysis. You analyze so much on this issue we are having at hand. So you see, as a matter of fact, if the NNPC wish Nigerian well, no matter how expensive or costly the product is going to be, they should never touch the price. Because as a matter of fact, people are suffering now. I know the moment we touch anything on petrol, it triggers everything. Even someone that doesn't even involved in buying the petrol, you will increase the price of his commodity. So, Mr. Zaka, I agree with you on one point, on the issue of them not selling out our refinery. Because I can see it in you have said it all. The capitalists in Nigeria, they are the one killing us. And it's right time we stand up to speak up. Look at what you just said right now. And we still believe some people are still eager to ensure that those refineries are sold to them. So please, because if those refineries are working for God's sake, to some extent, the federal government on its own will forgo the profit. Because with all this analysis, you see, the moment you start talking, I pick up my pen and paper. I'm trying to make some analysis. I believe what drives this increase they're trying to propose is because of profit. Because nobody wants to make loss, but they want to put the burden on us. But if, for instance, the government itself now, the refinery now in Kaduna, the one in Port Harcourt, and the one in Delta are all working, I think the federal government is thinking of how to increase the capacity.
Sure.
Please, we should talk to them, please. They should not try to go there.
All right,
please.
then. Thank you very much, Taufik. Thank you.
Thank you, Taufik. It's just like what Taufik is saying. Even the GDP we are talking about, first of all, we are saying we are a monoproduct economy. Many countries are monoproduct economies. But what they do is they take advantage of the revenues from that product and build to diversify their economy and grow GDP. So what is even a GDP? GDP, which we call gross domestic product, is just the monetary values of your internal production of goods and services. Then mathematically, it is a function of consumer spending. We already know that revenues and salaries and disposable incomes are very low. So that means consumer spending is going to be low. It will affect GDP. The same GDP is a function of investment. First of all, let me just define it. GDP is a function of consumer spending, investment, government expenditure, and net export. In terms of consumer spending, a lot of people have been sacked. People cannot be able to produce. You go, barber cannot produce, manufacturers cannot produce due to cost of petrol or diesel to run their generator. So consumer spending is low. Investment is very low because of what we call business climate hostilities. Whether you call it insecurity in the northeastern part of the country, or disruption of pipelines in this, or facilities in the south, or what you may call kidnaps and the rest. But investment has been affected. Also linked to the non-passage of the PIB. Then government spendings, which is G. The government spending is very low because our government is broke. So we don't have money to construct new roads, new hospitals, and upgrade our universities. Then the next one is supposed to be net export. Net export is just the differential between what you produce and what you import. So if your export is more than your import, then you have net export. But in our own case as Nigeria, our net export is negative. Because we are producing more than we export.
Mr. Emmanuel calling in from Ogudu. Good morning, sir. Well, we lost you. See if you can get in again. A very depressing picture, but not an impossible one. No,
the simple thing is internal domestication. And I have always said it. Nairanize the Nigerian economy. This is what people do. We are already having this thing. Okay, just look at it. How
do you mean Naira? Well, it's not dollarized. It's
no, you don't need the dollar. You don't. What you see, every country you go to imports something from somewhere. Whether you talk China imports something from somewhere to continue with production. Nigeria must import something from somewhere to continue with production of goods and services. America will do the same. France, Canada, and the rest will do the same. But in our own case, first of all, Nairanize our internal consumption. But before you Nairanize, let me tell you our endowment. Nigeria, as we talk today, in terms of only gas endowment, proved reserve means something if you deploy today's technology, it's already there waiting for you. It's just like cash in the bank. We have more than 187 trillion cubic feet of gas. Then potentially, meaning that by the time you apply new technology and in the future, we have probably 600 trillion cubic feet of gas. You and I know that we've been saying people should go back to the farms, right? The ingredients for fertilizer is ammonia. You get ammonia from natural gas, and we are more of a gas nation than an oil nation. All our thermal stations to generate electricity are supposed to be fired by what? By gas.
So we're not taking
So
full advantage yet of the
Exactly.
potentials available to us. I want to thank you, Reverend Dominic, for holding on from ALIMOSHO. Go ahead now, sir.
Good morning, Yori.
Good morning.
Bala, good morning.
God bless you, sir.
Yeah. Bala, we have come back to where we are. We have cried so much. I've heard your voice, you know me. I am getting frustrated with this system. I read that report and I've become angry. Bala, how on earth that in that report nobody did not spell it out well? How shameful it is that an oil nation over 70 years has no functionary refinery. How shameful. Do we need to cry this all again? I was somewhere 5 years ago in Holland, and there was no gas to fly that plane. The pilot announced that he's going to Niamey. I thought he was going to Switzerland. We landed in Niger Republic, and few of us in that aircraft looked from the window. We're in Niger Republic to refuel the aircraft, not Nigeria. I will mention two people who is like that day. Let me mention them now to embarrass them.
Yes, sir.
All of us were frozen. How do we go from Holland to refuel aircraft, not in Nigeria, in desert of Niger Republic that has no fuel, oil? What a shame. I was sorry for myself. I supported this government, and I thought in this government we will hear how people like Bala talking to people in government. What you're saying now, the issue is increase in fuel. Yeah, just reduce it. Jonathan did it. Is Buhari also going to use fuel? Nigeria is crashing. Yesterday, a woman fainted in the church where a pastor. She has not eaten for 3 days. It's anointing. We have to find food. For 7 years in my life in Lagos, I have not used electricity to power the church I pastor. What a shame. Do we go this road? Nigeria is crashing. Let's say it's clear. People are dying of hunger. Somebody said yesterday, family, she has not eaten for 3 days. A man who is earning 18,000 minimum wage, 450 naira dollar, is he earning up 2,000 naira a month? Let's go. If this government fails, I think Nigeria will be hopeless. Thank you.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Reverend Dominic. Well, hopefully we're a far place, we're a far distance away from that. But it looks like what the GMDs have seemed to be doing is to be sounding a note of warning. And now my worry is that, my concern, Bala, is why will this, can this be the first that knowledgeable people where it matters, never mind TV audiences, I would have heard of these ideas?
No, like I said, these are GMDs. Just like when you say a general.
Yes.
Chief of Defense Staff, like I said, Inspector Generals of Police, Controllers. They started from the scratch and they go to the highest level.
Yeah, but why what they have put out, the information they have put out, the stuff they have put out, why it hasn't been factored into things is the part that's surprising me.
No, the answers are not far-fetched, and that was why I said even the democracy we practice is a democracy of exclusion. It's a democracy of exclusion. When somebody comes in, all other people are consigned to the regardless of what they will do. But you see, the solutions are also straightforward.
Okay, one moment, please, before you give us a wrap-up of them. Mr. Mahmoud, Mr. Yakub. Mr. Yakub, good morning.
Good morning, Joy. Good morning, Mr. Bala.
Morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning. I really love Mr. Bala Saka so much when we are talking about petroleum engineering in this country. But, Joy, the question I want to put to you personally is this. Does it mean that Nigerian government is inception since 1999 when we come to this democracy era? Does it mean that they don't know somebody like Bala Saka and all that? Because the reason is this. Look at the analysis. Look at the analysis. That's so simple. That's one other time like that we are talking about piracy in our water, taking away our air. But like this was the detail, how the fuel is going to be thief from all those people. Doesn't mean the Nigerian government don't know this kind of people. Look at what Dominic just tell us now. Somebody has never hit, and then they are telling us they want to increase fuel. See, Shiflori, I really thought about this President Muhammadu Buhari before the election. And then, for me, I'm still supporting him, though I know he's trying his best. But the problem he has is this. The people that surround him now, You need to reshuffle the government. You need to reshuffle the cabinet. Rather,
Okay.
because
Okay.
failing to do that, people are going to blame you.
All right,
God
then.
bless you.
Thank you very, very much. Kachiku Ibe, well, but there's no way he's an ignoramus, the Minister of State. He's a technocrat.
Those are people we are praying to get to their level.
He knows this stuff. So I was using that to sort of answer Yakub. There's no shortage of people who have the knowledge. But you were speaking about a politics of exclusion being one of the problems we have in this country. If you're not in my party, I don't want to hear anything you have to say, no matter how good it is.
Just imagine the number of people that are today in government that were probably not in the previous government for the past many years. They've just been idle, regardless of what they can offer. But let's now start coming to the solutions. The solutions are very cheap and elementary. I am ready to have not what do you call it? A press debate, though not for governor or councillor, because if I go for councillor, I may fail. But on this thing, anywhere, even if we are going to stand in the moon, I'm ready to say this. All you need is to nairanize the economy as far as the downstream sector of the oil and gas is concerned.
What exactly do you...
I will explain.
Because we're fast running out of time.
Nairalization.
In fact, we have run out of time. So let's speak about that.
Get the crude oil from the wellhead in Naira. Move them to the refineries in Naira. Refine them in Naira. Sell to Nigerians in the Nigerian currency called Naira. Generate Naira. Then what that will do is it will free you from exchange rate differentials. It will cut you off. That doesn't mean you will not require equipment. Like I said, every country imports one spare part or one thing or the other. Nairanize the economy and you are shielded from exchange rate differentials.
And that exactly is not what happens at the moment, is what you're saying.
Because first of all, the refineries are not there. Then anybody who is coming in, please, I'm appealing to the Nigerian government. Anybody that wants to come in and set up a refinery, please give, apart from the tax holidays and other holidays you will give them, please give them some level of discount because they are internally doing this thing. That is the only way we will grow the GDP. Because if they do that, they will employ the drivers here, employ the carpenters here, employ the cooks here, employ distributors and everybody. And when you do that, you will have enough to distribute to other parts of the country. Then the same thing with fertilizer. You can't believe it. You go to places like Niger and North Africa. Only on fertilizer you will make. Fertilizer is as expensive as crude oil there. Once you do that there, I can tell you, you will feed the West African coast, North Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, and Nigeria will be a great country.
Well, amen to that. We're going to have to leave it there, Bala. There's a heck of a lot more where that came from. Thank you very much for your passion, your patriotism, your nationalism. But people are still worried that I hope this thing is not going up, but we'll see how all of that goes.
Once in 4 years, build one refinery. From 1999, if we have built one refinery in 4 years, by now we'll be having 4 brand new refineries.
There you go. Okay, so that's our program today. I want to thank you very much, Engineer Bala Zaka, expert on energy matters. And, join us tomorrow for a fresh edition of the program. I'm Yori Folani. Bye-bye for now.